Hey there, it's time for another episode of Selling Point. Today we want to talk about a topic that I call set your jaws to pause. You'll understand that in a minute. First, let me open up with a story that I think you'll find interesting, maybe humorous. But there was a company that was having problems and were not getting the results they wanted, so they decided to get rid of the CEO and bring a new one in. So they did that. They bring in a guy as the new CEO, and he decides that his first mission is going to be to eliminate as many slackers with the company as he possibly can. And so he goes to one of their facilities his first week on the job, and he goes in and he looks around and he sees most of the folks are working and carrying on, but he looks over and sees that there's one guy that's leaning up against the wall and he's just picking at his fingernails and just doing absolutely nothing. And so he decides, aha, this is my chance to, really make a splash. And so he walks over to the guy and he says, hey, how much money do you make a week? And the guy kind of looks around and says, $400 a week. Why? He says, he reaches down and he pulls his wallet out and he counts it out. He gives this guy $1,600. He said, well, here's a month's pay. Hit the bricks and don't come back. And so he's all proud of himself and he turns around. All the employees are looking at him. And so he asked one of them, he said, can somebody tell me what this slacker did around here? And there was silence for 2 or 3 seconds. And then one of them spoke up and said, oh, sir, he's the delivery guy from Papa John's Pizza. So that's a pretty embarrassing way to start off on a new job. And I think he quickly realized that he should have asked his question first before he took action. And, a lot of salespeople tend to do that, and they have sort of a ready, fire, aim approach to sales, which in most cases does not end well. So today I want to talk about that simple concept of putting your jaw on pause. And so to explain that, very simply, as you're doing your discovery and you're gathering information, many times you know what questions you want to ask, and so you go in and you start blasting questions back and forth at the prospect or the buyer, and very quickly they can just be overcome by question fatigue. And that doesn't end well either, so there's got to be a medium point in between those. And so that's the crux of what we're talking about today. And it's very simple. And if you'll employ this technique, I think you'll see your results will begin to improve, and hopefully dramatically. But it's very simple. Just as you ask a question, then wait 3 to 4 seconds before you ask your next question. And so what happens is, by that prospect having 3 to 4 seconds, then they can really think about how they're going to answer what you're asking them, and then they come back with a response. And then you do the same thing on the back end. Once they have responded to your question, just sort of park it there for 3 or 4 more seconds, a little pause, before you ask your next question. And I think what you'll find is what's happened with me when I've been out selling is that many times when somebody answers your question, if they have that extra few seconds to think about it, they'll come back and say, and also, wait a minute, there's another part of that I need to tell you too. And they'll tell you something else that may be crucial. It may be something very important that would be helpful for you as you move forward on that sales call. So again, very quickly, just pause after a question, 3 to 4 seconds, and then pause at the end of their answer for another 3 to 4 seconds, and watch what happens. Now, I know it'll be awkward when you start to do this as a new strategy, but try it, and you'll find, I think, that it will, your discovery will go much smoother for you. And then in addition to that, final point is that's a great time for you to really polish up on your nonverbal techniques. And that starts off again with good eye contact as you speak to your prospect, that you make that good contact with them. And then also that you paraphrase what they've said occasionally, not with every response, but from time to time, if you'll say, okay, well, let me see if I got this right. What you said is blah, blah, blah. And then you sort of repeat that back in your own words, and hopefully they'll come back and say, yeah, you got it. That's exactly what that problem is. And so another is nodding occasionally. As the prospect is answering you, then you just sort of gently nod as if you're soaking it all in. And of course, I hope you are, because the things that are being told to you could be very, very important. And so what happens when you do that is your productivity goes up. You and your prospect feel better about one another. And as salespeople come to me and tell me, Doug, I need some help, I'm having trouble closing, what I tend to find out is that when somebody tells me they're having trouble closing, they really are having trouble opening. And so don't let that happen to you, and make sure that your opening, your discovery part of your front end of your sales calls are much, much better, because when you do a better job there, you're going to find that you're going to close more sales more often. Now, if that is helpful to you, don't forget about the book. Sell is not a 4-letter word, because in this book, there are 116 different strategies and topics that I cover, and there are at least 20 of them that pertain to that discovery process, part of what takes place on the front end of a call. And so get you a copy, $12, very simple, RobinsonTrainingSolutions.com, and we'll get it on out to you. So have a great selling week, and we'll see you next time.